I've always been hearing about this issue of 35% affirmative action, 35%. But I remember in the days of old, people like Fumilayo Ransome Kuti and a whole lot of women who really struggled, to make themselves known. They never came out to start talking about 35% affirmative action, never talked about affirmative actions. Even though, yes, women deserve, a voice and they deserve to be on the table. But how many of them have really worked, to gain that particular traction like the women of old?
That question is very loaded. Women like Fumilayo Ransome Kuti were forerunners. They simply used their voices. They were the first women who used their voices. They were not the first women who were capable of being in places that women should rightfully occupy. 35% affirmation, like Dorothy said. It's even sad that we have to talk about affirmative action for women. We're not second-class citizens. Why do we have to have affirmative action as though the world is created or the country is created primarily for men, and men are allowing us to step into spaces? The question you asked as well about should it be by merit or should it be by affirmative action? Well, it applies to men as well. We're not trying to get into places we're not qualified to be in. Women should be in boardrooms because they're qualified to be in boardrooms, not because they're women. And that already is the case. We are just as educated and just as qualified as men are, and yet we have to fight to hold the same spaces that you do.
Why do you have to fight? Okay, let's talk about Margaret Ekpo. Let's talk about Margaret Thatcher. Let's talk about several other women across the world. They didn't have to start asking for these affirmative actions, but they had to go out there and get it. They made themselves really useful to the society, and of course the society was able to get to see what they've done, and of course lined, queued behind them for support.
But do you know what they had to go through to get to those positions? That part of the conversation is not public knowledge. They didn't simply wake up like you would wake up and apply for a job and get in. They had to jump over obstacles. They had to go through hoops just to get there. And why do women have to fight to get to places that men walk into?
Well, even though I share that sentiment of women really being where they should be, but I think that women actually have more leverage in workplaces these days because of certain sentiments. And that still talks about the theme of this year's International Women's Day, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. And the international one, of course, is #Inspire Inclusion. So how do you inspire inclusion? What does that theme mean to women?
I want to add to what you just said as well, is that women may be able to leverage their positions in workplaces. The issue we have is the doors being open to get them into the workplace in the first instance. But to your point about inspiring inclusivity or inclusion in women, it starts at home. It starts with the individual. It starts with you as a man recognizing that women are equal to men. And equal does not necessarily mean we're not talking of the physicalities with regards to strength, because that's the very obvious difference between men and women. It's in our physical makeup. But women are equal to men. They have as much right to stand in the same spaces as men. If you can start by believing that, that is a very big step towards it. The trouble we have, and especially in our culture in Nigeria, is we actually don't believe that. We actually believe that women are second to men, and therefore they should be given permission slips to exist and to operate in the spaces where men are. If you as a man can begin to accept that women are equal, it's a big step. The next step is for women, us women, to support each other and not compete with each other. And finally, it's for us as individual women to create mindsets that foster inclusivity of others, but also recognize that, we're not smaller or we're not less than.
Thank you very much, Chooks Arotire, for being on the news.
Thank you for having me.
And also thank you.